Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Kyle Downey, and this is Sports Download, the show where Los Angeles native talks sports from a fan's perspective. I might not be unbiased, but I keep it honest and real with you. So today is the first game of the NBA Finals, but we're not really going to talk about that. Sorry, Michael Malone, head coach of the Nuggets. I know it's all about y'all today, but I'll be talking about the finals next episode, about whatever happens tonight with Denver going up against the Miami Heat. But I kind of wanted to talk about some of the narratives that surround NBA players, superstars, and how it's became an obsession with how many championship rings you win, with rings culture ever since Michael Jordan. Ever since Michael Jordan won 6 rings. So I kind of wanted to cover that. I kind of wanted to talk about LeBron and Steph and how they're kind of a modern version of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. So I'm pretty sure everybody who's watching this show will kind of know some history of the NBA, but just to kind of recap. So during the 70s, the NBA was popular, but it wasn't until they just were combining with the ABA and the NBA, but it wasn't as popular as it could have been because the games were on tape delay. And when it came to 1979, when around 1979, 1980, when Larry Bird was drafted by the Celtics and Magic Johnson was drafted by the Lakers, it's thanks to Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. It's thanks to them that the league gained all this popularity and was no longer needed to be on tape delay. Eventually, it was on live television and gained more popularity. And they were two totally different people. Magic was black from Michigan. Larry Bird was white from the South, from Indiana. Both great basketball players in their own unique way. Magic a little more flashy, a little more personable, had the big smile. Larry Bird was more of a quiet guy. They would say fundamentals, but he was a great player. But two totally different personalities, two totally different people, two totally different basketball players. And it's thanks to them that the NBA was kind of saved, because it was getting buried. I mean, not being on live television, that's almost unthinkable now, as we think about it in the year 2023, when all the basketball games are on live TV, all the NBA games are on live TV. But I was thinking about this a few weeks ago, and so, like I said, it's thanks to them that they saved the NBA. But with Magic and Larry Bird, those two guys and the teams they played on historic franchises with the Lakers and with the Celtics. But during that time, I think that we saw, like, during the 80s, some teams won in between, but it was a lot of those years were the Lakers and the Celtics going up against each other in the finals, and Magic won 5 rings in that time span with Kareem, and Larry Bird and all the Celtics guys, they won. Larry Bird won 3, and so 5-3 if we're counting rings, right? So you would say, okay, Magic and the Lakers got the better of Larry Bird, and they had this rivalry, which later on they became friends, but they had a bitter rivalry. They had a rivalry, and the teams hated each other. Even Michael Thompson, when he came to the Lakers in '87 and '88, he went to school with Kevin McHale, and they were friends off the court because they went to school together in Minnesota. But when it came to the game, Michael's like, "Oh no, I wouldn't talk to him. I wouldn't talk to him at all." Once we got on the court, he was basically playing for the bad guys. So, but during that time, so you had Magic Johnson gives 5 rings in the 80s, and Larry Bird gets 3 rings in the 80s. And so that's kind of how, sports go. I mean, especially with basketball is very unique in the way that there's only 5 guys on a court at a time for each team, so 10 guys total. And so one guy's star power makes a huge difference, and two or three guys' star power, how great two guys are, one or two guys are, really can make a difference. And so that's where we put all this emphasis on, well, if he's not a championship player, then he's not that good. And yes, there are levels to that, but when you look at it, it's not like you could say, well, Larry Bird won 3 rings on Magic's watch. And that's the type of things that they'll say about Kobe, and that's the type of things that they'll say about LeBron. And yeah, but as fans, as fanatics, yeah, we hope that our teams win every year, but it's not realistic. It's not a realistic way to look at it. Like, you don't win every single time. Failure is a part of life, and it's definitely a part of sports. So it's unrealistic to look at it and say, well, Magic's got more rings, so he's a better player than Larry Bird. I think Magic was, that's debatable. I think Magic was a better player than Larry Bird, but Larry Bird was a great player in his own right, and was ahead of his time in how he could make jump shots and 3-pointers and things like that. But I think the way, especially with how sports TV is now and sports talk radio, which I love sports talk radio, but I don't really watch some of the talk shows, some of the debate shows, because once I found out that it's kind of like wrestling, where it's like scripted, where you take one side, I'll take the other, and we'll go argue. And that's, they have their own success, but that's not really what I want to view, or what I'm interested in doing in talking about sports. If we're gonna have a debate, I want to have a real, honest debate, and let's try to make sense of this, And I'm not interested in watching or producing anything that's not real. That's not a real conversation. That's not a real debate. So if you really look at it, you can say, well, Magic let Larry Bird get 3 rings on his watch, but like I said, you cannot expect your team to win every single year. You can't expect. Things happen, injuries happen, every situation is different, and it's really tough to win a championship. I heard Kobe Bryant say this one time in an interview, that championships are really hard. They're really hard. Yes, that's the goal. And yes, that's what they play for. But they're really hard to get to that type of level, that type of success, to go through an 82 game season, and then have to win 16 more games when the competition is the toughest, and you might be tired. Maybe some guys are playing through injuries. There's all kinds of things that happen. You got to play through, you got to play through officiating, that factors into it sometimes too. There's all kinds of things that can occur that can be obstacles that you have to overcome. So it's really hard. And I'm saying that as a Lakers fan who's spoiled, who's witnessed many championships. I was alive for all of Kobe's championships and then LeBron's championship. So I've seen 6 championships in my lifetime, but that's, I'm 30 years old. That's only 6 years that they've won out of my 30 year lifetime. So that's just proof right there how difficult, and they're tied for the most championships in the NBA, and that just shows you how difficult it is to win at that level. And so if we're really analyzing this, we're really being honest with ourselves. You can't expect your team to win every year. But what we can see is that with Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, how they each won championships, and Magic won more, thank goodness. The Lakers won more. They won those 5 rings. But when you look at that just shows that, that's kind of normal. That's kind of normal that teams will only win sometimes. And you're talking about, let's say, a 10-year period from 1980 to 1990. Magic won 5 years, like the Lakers won 5 years. So when we flash forward, when I think about when we kind of made me think about it when I saw the Lakers play the Warriors. You have LeBron and Steph. They've kind of had this rivalry that started when LeBron was on the Cavs, and when Steph obviously has been on the Warriors the whole time. You see, they made a lot of talk about legacy and about LeBron versus Steph. So LeBron had won 4 titles in his career, and Steph has now won 4. So they're tied. So it's kind of similar. It's very different. Very different. Obviously, they're both Black Americans, so there's not the race element involved. But one is more of a shooter, Steph Curry, like Bird was, and LeBron is a passing scoring type. So there's some similarities, and LeBron is a great passer like Magic was. So there's some similarities there, but mainly I want to look at the amount of rings that they each have. They're both tied, LeBron versus Steph, and I've seen it on debate shows before. I've seen that it's like, well, LeBron let Steph win on his watch and took it from him. Well, there's context, right? There's context that's involved in all of that. When you look at the finals, I was watching tape this morning of LeBron's epic comeback and the Cavs' epic comeback from down 3-1 up against the Warriors. And that's the only time that he beat Steph in the finals and the Warriors in the finals. But you look at that following summer, that summer after that loss, they go and they sign Kevin Durant. And that made them almost unbeatable. It was completely unfair. I remember I was a Lakers fan and my team was, Kobe was retiring. That was that year. But I'm like, this is bonkers. This is unfair. Like, why is it? And it was only because, Steph was on a cheaper contract, on a more reasonable contract, because he had ankle injury early on in his career. He had an ankle injury concern, so they didn't sign him to that much. He didn't have max money yet. And then the cap went up and they were able to sign Kevin Durant. And it was completely unfair. And, LeBron in all his greatness, he couldn't overcome that. And he lost in 17 and 18. So I'm not saying that's just how it goes. Sometimes you go up against a better team and you lose. But there's context that should be provided there. And it just made me think about Magic versus Bird and how they each got championships in that window, in that 10-year span. And LeBron and Steph, they've each got championships in their careers. LeBron started winning in 2012. So from 2012 to 2020, he got 4 championships. And then Steph had 3 until he won in 22 last season. So I saw the parallels. There's slight parallels there. And it makes me think, like, that's basketball. You know what I mean? That's real life. And Michael Jordan, a lot of people debate whether he's the greatest of all time, whether he's the GOAT, or whether LeBron's the GOAT. I think probably you would say that Michael Jordan's the GOAT. But I've also seen video of him recently saying that, you can't really compare eras because it's not fair to each era. Like Michael Jordan himself made the example, was Bill Russell better than me because he won 11 championships? Am I better than him? I won 6. But the eras are completely different, and I would say that it's getting tougher as time goes on. Guys are more athletic, health, the doctors, medicine is more advanced, and guys are just younger. These younger kids, are more athletic, faster, can jump higher. Genetics is crazy. The evolution, the nutrition, everything is getting better. Nutrition, training, all of that. So yeah, it is hard to compare eras. I would say up to now, maybe Michael's the greatest. Probably Michael's the greatest. My top 3 ever is Michael Jordan, Kobe, and then LeBron. And maybe I'm a little biased there, like I said in the title. Like I say every start of every show is that I'm biased. But I remember seeing Kobe. destroy guys on a nightly basis, and he patterned his game off of Michael Jordan and went at Michael Jordan himself. Never won a championship against Michael Jordan, but he learned from him, he battled him, and so I put Kobe up there because he was methodical, he was maniacal, he had that same mentality as Michael Jordan, and he that Mamba mentality that he has patented now. So I put Kobe up there, and I put LeBron up there, and they're all pretty close. You know what I mean? Like, if anybody would say that Kobe is kind of like Jordan, then you got to put him second, because you look at their numbers, they're pretty much close, and Kobe has 5 rings compared to Jordan's 6 rings, and the LeBron has 4. As we currently talk right now in 2023. So, but that's, it's a barbershop debate. It's you kick it with the homies and you can discuss and debate. And there's all kinds of arguments. You can make arguments for all kinds of people if you go up and down the list. And ranking's really hard. But I'll have that conversation with somebody, honestly. But so for me, that's my top 3. But Michael Jordan, unfortunately, from him winning his 2 3-peats, he won a 3-peat, he took a break from basketball, came back, and then the next season after he came back for like half a season, and the next season, then he wins another 3-peat. That is crazy, mythical stuff, and he is legendary for all that he succeeded. But then you watch The Last Dance, he was incredible, those teams were incredible, and his teams were always better. They put together better teams. I'm not taking away from his greatness, but there is context there. And when you factor in the context and you analyze the situation, for me, you can't boil the greatness and the success all down to rings. Like, I like to make fun of Charles Barkley because he's a Laker hater. I like to make fun of him for having no rings. But he was a really good basketball player. He's not as great as Michael Jordan, but he was a really good basketball player. He just never was on the right team, and I don't think he was ever a number one option on like a championship level team. Plus, he went up against Michael Jordan a few times. He went up against Michael Jordan in the finals. It's I make fun of Charles Barkley, but when you can't just boil down who is the greatest or how great this player is just to rings alone, because that would be a discredit to every other superstar out there competing and everybody else that is on that level. That's a discredit to them, saying, so you're going to say that LeBron is not great because he's lost in the finals. I've heard that argument before. It's just absurd. Or he's not great because he's lost to other great teams, or because he lost to Steph, or because he lost to the Warriors when they had Kevin Durant. Like, we have to add context here, people. That's my point here, is that, so for me, it's the LeBron Steph, the NBA makes a lot of money on the Lakers, Warriors, and it's LeBron and Steph. That's what the NBA makes a lot of money on. Yeah, the other team's not trying to discredit them, but LeBron is in the GOAT conversation. Steph Curry's the greatest shooter of all time, and that's why that Warriors-Lakers series earlier on in the playoffs did such huge numbers in viewership and everything, because they are that great and they are box office to watch. So for me, I like that comparison. It's intriguing and it's interesting to me, is that LeBron versus Steph is a little like Magic versus Bird. They each ate, they each had success, they each had championships, but it was hard. It was hard to achieve those goals. LeBron went to like 8 straight finals. That's crazy. And yeah, he left teams, and I don't discredit him for that at all. It's sad, but some of these older players and older people that used to play in the league or are of a certain age now, in their 50s and 60s, they want to some not all, some want to discredit LeBron for leaving teams, and it's like, dude, everybody's got to do what they want to do. Like, I love that Kobe stayed forever, but he also had a period of time where he almost wanted to leave. He asked for a trade, and then Dr. Buss said, "Oh no, we're not going to trade you." But then they got Pau Gasol. So, but there was a time period where it's just Kobe by himself. So I'm not going to discredit LeBron for leaving. I heard even Dr. J, Julius Erving, was like, oh, he put his own super team together, so I'm not going to put him on my top 10 list or whatever. And it's like, man, come on, don't hold it against the guy just because if you get drafted by like a bad team and they're never good, like Shaq was drafted by the Magic, and yeah, they were good, but so Shaq is not great because he went to the Lakers? Like, you can't do that, because as I've said before, anybody will go to the best situation for themselves. It's just human nature. You got to look out for yourself and your family. And especially the era LeBron was in the NBA, where he started being in the NBA, is that, there's this rings thing. Hey, Jordan has 6 rings. You know what I mean? So in order for LeBron to be considered great, he wants to get rings, and for him, he had to leave. He had to leave teams. And so I wouldn't hold that against him. But I like the comparison of LeBron and Steph and Bird and Magic, because it just shows that you can't win every year, and that it's really hard to win a championship. And you could say the same. I was thinking about Kobe. Kobe won sometime. They won his first three-peat, then Shaq leaves. And so they lost in 04, Shaq leaves, Kobe's by himself, and then it's not until 2 more that he wins with Powell when Powell comes in 08, and they win in 9 and 10. But Kobe sat and had to see like Tim Duncan win a ring, had to see Shaq win a ring in Miami. He had to see Tim Duncan win a couple rings in those down years where they weren't in the finals, which, spoiled as a Lakers fan, call it a down year. But, does that mean Tim Duncan was greater than Kobe? No. He was almost at the level of Kobe. I think it's absurd when people put Tim Duncan above him. But, and at the same time, is Tim Duncan not a great player because Shaq and Kobe were so dominant? No, that's not true either. So I think that I like to add context. I like to be reasonable about these things. And when you look at it closely, you can see that it's difficult to win a championship, that you have to have everything right. You have to have, like in football, it's a 53-man roster. It has to be, everything has to go right, and you have to be healthy. But in basketball, it's a 15-man roster, 5 guys play at a time, and in the playoffs, you have like a 7 to 9 man rotation, maybe about 7 or 8 man rotation. So one guy is very important. But it's not, as long as that guy did his best, the other things play a part. The other things play a role. Not only do you need great superstars, you need like 2 great superstars, I would say, but you need everything else. You need the role players. You need the depth. Like the Shaq and Kobe teams, it was Shaq and Kobe so dominant, and then they had tremendous role players to help, tremendous depth. Derek Fisher, Rick Fox, all those guys. And, when Kobe and Powell, they had Andrew Bynum, Metta World Peace, high-end role player star that then was a role player. So you had all these pieces. You had to make the rosters had to fit together, and it takes a lot to win at that high level, not just having 1 or 2 super great guys. It takes a lot to win at that level, and I like thinking about LeBron and Steph being kind of like Magic and Bird, because that's how life is. You don't win all the time. You don't win every game. You don't win every year. I wish the Lakers would win every single year, but that's not how life works. It's very difficult, very hard, and it's kind of like an ebb and flow sometimes. And so I think you can't discredit LeBron and say that he's not great because Steph has won. Just like you can't discredit Magic because Larry Bird won sometimes, because Larry Bird was really good. Larry Bird was great. Steph Curry is great. You know what I mean? You have to stop those guys from winning too, and everything has to fall into place. So I thought that was interesting. Just thinking about it sparked me to think about it when I was seeing LeBron play Steph for the first time as a Laker in a playoff setting, in the playoffs. it just everything has to work out right, and you have to plan for it accordingly as far as the roster and everything, and injuries. You need to be as healthy as possible come playoff time. And I think that it's an interesting parallel because LeBron and Steph are kind of like Larry Bird and Magic, where they both won championships. It's just, I think it's going to be rare moving forward where someone is going to just win 6 titles and never lose in the finals. I don't know if anybody's ever going to do that again. And now the league is more competitive. Like I said, guys are getting better. They're faster. They jump higher. They're stronger. Genetics, and also the training and the nutrition regimens. It's not going to be an easy thing to do, to just rattle off 6 championships or rattle off, here's a three-peat, there's a three-peat. I think that Michael Jordan was incredible, and so was Scottie Pippen as his number 2, and those teams were really well put together. But they were just a lot better than the other teams. You watch The Last Dance, they were a lot better. They were, the way they were assembled and everything like that. And it doesn't always work out that. Is Michael Jordan still the GOAT? Yes, he is. But there just wasn't that person. He didn't come across that team or that person when he was playing. When he didn't come across a team in that window when he went to the finals. He didn't meet that team or that person that was on that same level as the Bulls. Like LeBron has faced against Steph and against the Spurs. He's had to battle teams that were on that level. And yeah, he's had his like LeBron is messed up, and like he kind of choked in the 2011 finals. But after that, he was great in 12, 13, 14, but he didn't win all those. He won back-to-back 12 and 13. And then circumstances where, he loses to the Warriors. Okay, I have to figure out how to beat the Warriors. And the Cavs had to figure out how to beat the Warriors. And then they did it. And then 17 and 18, they get Kevin Durant. They're unbeatable. So it's just, you have to add context to these things. And Steph Curry would have 5 rings if they didn't lose to the Raptors. So context matters here. And I really do think that in these last 8 years, we kind of saw something similar to Magic and Bird in LeBron and Steph. Not the exact same thing. Obviously, it's totally different. But it's similar in the way where these two guys are incredible in their respective ways, and they each were winning during that time period. So I thought that was an interesting comparison. I hope y'all appreciate it. It's a little different episode talking about the history of the NBA with Magic and Bird, and now LeBron and Steph, because they're still great. Steph is still incredible. He's 35. LeBron's still incredible. He's 38. LeBron is not in his prime, but he's like still prime-ish. And Steph might be still in his prime. So I'm not sure how much longer we'll have LeBron and Steph. And, hopefully the Lakers can win some more championships with LeBron. Hopefully they can figure something out. But I think that we should appreciate greatness. Even if it's not your team, even if it's not the outcome you want, we don't need to discredit anyone. Like, so for example, the finals, Nikola Jokic, he has now arrived. I feel like he has steadily climbed and gotten better and better, and now we've seen he's incredible. He's excellent. He might be he's definitely top 5 in the league right now because his team's still standing, and that team is really great in their machine. And Jimmy Butler is really great too, so we'll see what happens in that series. And I'll catch y'all next time talking about how the NBA Finals went and some other topics. We'll talk some NBA hires and maybe throw in a little Dodger talk. So I appreciate y'all checking in and watching this special episode comparing LeBron and Steph to Magic and Bird. And appreciate y'all for listening. Please like and subscribe. Shoot a comment if you want me to talk about something else. You want some sort of any topic you want to talk about, something I can cover. I appreciate it. Thanks again, man. God bless. Peace and love.